Hey guys, what is up? Welcome along to the High Performance Living Podcast. Well, yet another awesome podcast coming your way from the SFN Expo. This week I am joined by the Fitter Foods gang. That's Keris and Matt. They are a fantastic team that are very, very knowledgeable and good at what they do. So I wanted to interview them, get them onto the podcast, share some of that knowledge, some of that inspiration and passion that they also have for the nutrition and training lifestyle. And boy, do we capture it. It's an absolute awesome podcast, so stay tuned for that. Well, aside from that, I'm preparing, more mentally preparing, for a Tough Mudder run. That's right, this weekend, Exceed Nutrition and I are taking full force and heading to the Cheshire Tough Mudder. So my online nutrition guys are joining with the personal trainers on the certification course, and we are going to tackle this Tough Mudder head on, set the best time and conquer it, I hope. So that's the plan for this weekend. On top of that then, if you haven't yet got involved with the free 5-day courses, there's been some fantastic feedback coming in. Lots of people saying it's exactly what they've needed to kickstart their nutrition. So if you haven't started the free 5-day course over on exceednutrition.com, head over to the website, just stick your email address in, and then it's 5 days of awesome nutrition coaching and learning to kickstart your nutrition, improve your habits, and get you on the right track. All right, that's enough from me this week. Let's dive straight into this fantastic interview with the Fitter Foods team. See you on the other side. Okay, so Matt and Keris are here joining me on the podcast. How you doing, guys?
We are doing awesome. How you doing?
I am really well. It's been a busy weekend here at the SFN, right?
It's been crazy. Time's flying though, literally.
Yeah. So you've enjoyed it. You've been set up here. You've even had your own stall selling the book. Incredible, right?
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, we've been to like Body Power, which compared to this is obviously a much larger scale. But we weren't actually exhibiting, were we? We were helping out some friends of ours, like Brad McDonald of 100 Rep Challenge, who's here now, Andy McKenzie as well. So we were just giving them a hand, which was great. But to actually be here as an exhibitor and people come to talk to you about your book and everything you do and whatnot, it's quite surreal, really, isn't it?
Yeah, we were saying it's amazing because we do all our work online, so to actually see some faces.
Yeah, we were saying I get the same thing obviously as well. I bump into clients and it's really good. It's really good to meet people, and these opportunities allow us to do that, right?
Yeah. Oh, of course, 100%.
So those guys who don't know you, tell them a bit what you get up to, what you do, what you're all about. It's a lot of questions in one.
Who's going to start?
Matt is the talker, by the way. He waffles like a woman.
I know, I've listened to the
now.
podcast.
It's a tough one though, isn't it? I mean, are we the first duo that you've interviewed?
No. I had Wild Performance on.
Oh, okay.
You know them, guy?
Yeah,
Cliff and Marta.
That's the one.
Yeah, a good team.
No, they're awesome. Yeah, like they've bought our book as well. They bought like our book wholesale and they use it with their clients, which is awesome. Yeah, so we were actually talking about them about running a couple of projects together. So I must rekindle.
Yeah, they are. They're good at what they do. I was actually on a webinar with them last week.
I saw that.
Yeah, really good. We're actually going to try and get recording for that and get it put out there.
Nice one.
Anyway, what do you guys do?
We digress.
So, do you want to go?
No, you go.
Okay.
But keep it short.
I'll keep it short.
And sweet.
Okay, so essentially, Keris and I, our background is actually personal training. That's where we started, working one-to-one with people. Then we migrated over to the group training aspect of things because we just wanted to spice things up a little bit. And we enjoyed the camaraderie and the kind of team vibe, so to speak, that group training brought. And then over time, what we noticed is that people were more than happy to turn up to a gym 4 or 5 times a week and get a beast in. But as soon as you try and make simple changes to their nutrition, all of a sudden all these barriers start coming up of I don't have time, or my work doesn't allow it, etc., etc. And we obviously knew the importance of nutrition, and the more we learned and the more we were reading, and we were starting to see that our clients are almost getting unhealthier because they were overtraining, as well as working long, stressful hours at work, etc., and paying no attention to their nutrition. So with that, so that was Fitter London. That's our training side of the business. I suppose Fitter Food was born, wasn't it? But what we wanted to do, our goal was to recreate the group dynamics and the camaraderie of the group sessions, if you like, on a nutrition front. So we set up some online plans and we actually took people on in groups rather than just one-to-one. And we would like develop an online community, if you like, of people that could bounce ideas off of each other. They were all in the same boat, they all had like similar goals and whatnot. And we just found that camaraderie, that teamwork that you saw in a class, from a training aspect of things, was actually working on the nutritional front, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think because, you might find this, clients often mention when they're trying to get healthy, they become a little bit of a freak to their friends and their family.
Yeah.
Especially some of the things we advocate, like, meat for breakfast is a bit unusual, and getting rid of cereal and bread and common things. So when they go online and everyone else is doing that, they share those stories and say, oh, everyone's laughing at me in the office, because I've got my burgers out for lunch and stuff.
And they're eating sandwiches.
Yeah, basically, yeah. But then they see the results that you get, and then soon office colleagues will ask questions and family ask questions, and we always tell everyone on the plans, have one dinner party where you don't tell anyone it's healthy food, you just put on fitter food, basically starter, main, dessert, and everyone will love it. And then you can say, do you know there's nothing in this which is going to harm your health or unhealthy or make you fat. It's all nutritious
and make you feel awesome.
Yeah, basically. And it tasted good, and then they sort of go, oh, can I borrow the book? And that's sales for us. So
right. And it's not just health food, is it? It's just good, honest home cooking.
Absolutely.
The way it should be,
isn't
absolutely.
it?
It's nothing fancy. It's you don't need to. Everyone's always like, oh, I can't cook. I'm not a chef. And I'm not a chef, but I wrote a recipe book. So, work that one out. It's
a lot.
Simply. Sorry, Keris.
Sorry, I was going to say a lot of the recipes come from us being personal trainers, where you get in at like 9 o'clock at night starving, and it was what can we throw together. And my mum's pretty good at, she loves, she calls it cheats cooking, where she'll skip several steps and several ingredients and still produce a dish that tastes amazing. So she did a lot of the dishes in there, like a lot of the curries and the fish dishes as well, didn't she?
Yeah. Your mum likes a good curry, doesn't she?
Yeah, so it was like minimal ingredients, minimal expertise, so anyone can do it.
Yeah. Tell me about your own personal experiences with nutrition. Is it literally coming from that coaching background where you've said, right, we're going to actually need to work on our nutrition knowledge and education to help other people, or has there been any a personal journey into nutrition? Because for myself, when I was younger, I had some serious issues with IBS and stomach issues, and that was all related to my skin issues because I was on antibiotics and all this sort of jazz, and that's what pushed me into nutrition, and actually then focusing on health first, as opposed to just kind of focusing on the abs or whatever else you want to achieve. And actually I find that by sorting out my nutrition and improving my health, the body came with it. Is there anything like that, you guys, similar to that? Have you had any personal experience?
Mine's the same as yours, absolutely.
Yeah.
So as a teenager, I had acne, and after 2 years of antibiotics, and then they give you, women get the contraceptive pill now, just led to dreadful IBS. So I was actually quite lucky in that I had a doctor who said try gluten and dairy free, which is very unusual.
Yeah, very
for
unusual.
GP to say that.
Right?
And he also said stop running, because I was a big runner at the time. He's like, try not running as well, because that stresses the gut. And so that sort of launched me on a journey to research IBS. And a friend of mine in the gym said, look up paleo. And I got initially great results IBS-wise with that. Yeah. But I say to most people, it is only a foundation, and I've evolved it a lot over the years and used it as
matched it to you.
Absolutely, use it as a template, but then you can take it too far the other way, where you're sort of like, I can't touch any processed food. I'll get IBS again. So it's very much, which is stressful, so you want to avoid that. But
definitely.
Yeah, so we've been on a bit of a journey, haven't we? And
well, it's quite funny because Keris, if anything, I had to be convinced by you of this myself, because I was, so when you obviously do your personal training qualification, the nutrition part of it is very, very brief. It's based on, the government's typical food pyramid, like eat lots of grains and etc. Almost the complete opposite to the principles that we follow now. But at the time, I was a typical ignorant, lean PT who thought, because he was lean, could just eat whatever he wanted.
I'd actually say that he had IBS but thought it was normal.
Okay.
So Matt will fart for a minute and think that was normal, basically.
Who's got it?
And I just kept thinking, this is not right, how this amount of wind cannot be healthy. But you were just like, I've always had it, it's fine.
But that was the thing, for me.
This is why I didn't bring my girlfriend in.
But you know, so Keris was like doing all this learning and whatnot, and I was still very much, well, you know, I train all the time, I play rugby, you know, I've not got a body composition issue, so I don't really need to address my nutrition as much as other people. You know, that's how ignorant I was, and there's still a lot of people out there that are, you know, are still under that idea. You know, they look at body composition as a sign of your health.
And knowledge.
Exactly. But I was far from healthy, and there were so many signs there that were telling me that I wasn't, but I chose to just ignore them because I consider them normal. You know, having low energy for the best part of the day, and I just thought, when I get up early for work, of course I'm going to be tired.
Okay.
You know, lots of wind and blowing, but I was like, well, of course, that's just what happens, but it's actually not, as you well know. And eventually I was like, okay, you know, like, I kind of like done it to almost get Keris off my case more than anything. I was like, well, you know, like, it's working for her. She's, you know, she believes in it. I'll give it a try. So
also, I think a big thing for you is joint health. So for Matt, like, obviously inflammation manifests in joint pains, and anything that stops you training, you will then get frustrated, and then you'll pay attention. You're like, okay, what do I need to do? So that's why we both had like quite an interest in how to support performance anyway. But you took it to another level, doing things like bone broth, and you know, really trying to find ways to get
funky with it.
Yeah, you made it fashionable again.
Okay, I like it.
I think the key is, I suppose it goes with anybody, is that results breed results. So I gave it a try. Within 5 days, I felt superhuman, literally. I woke up every morning before my alarm went off, had consistently high energy levels all throughout the day. My training went through the roof, my rugby performance went through the roof. I recovered faster, and I was just like, this is amazing. Why the hell did I not listen to Keris sooner? and it literally changed my life, you know. And from that point on, you know, I would read into it more. I mean, I will never have the brains of Keris. You know, she is an incredibly intelligent girl, and you know, and most of the stuff I learn is through her. But you know, it certainly sent me on that path to kind of research things a little bit more myself. I never would have done in the past, you know. So, and then we wrote a book about it.
Well, I think the thing was, we found that we were constantly having to. You must find the same thing. Explain this over and over again to friends, family, loved ones. And so I actually decided to start writing up a mini ebook for clients.
Perfect.
But then it did turn into, we got a bit carried away in the kitchen, and I was like, I've got 100 pages of notes, Matt. How are you doing with the recipes? And you said, I've got 100 recipes. So we thought, let's go for it.
Put them together.
Put it in a book.
Yeah, I'm the same. I've got a book that every client gets. I've got a recipe book that I made that goes to every client, because that's, it's the stuff that you repeat and the stuff that everyone needs to know, right?
Oh, that's it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Let's look at then the fundamentals. All right, this is where people differ, right? This is where a few people in the industry have little digs at each other and whatnot. What's your fundamentals on nutrition? We said it's all right. We're looking at health. What's kind of the processes that you look at and things you consider the most when someone comes through those doors at Fitter Food?
Wow. Well, I think for me, I've got 2 areas that I focus on, and that's nutrient density of your plate and gut support. So I probably having had that background of IBS, but then I see it in so many, I'd say like 80 to 90% of people that come to us have got some sort of gut issues going on. So that's why we are quite big on elimination diets. So
because you know the importance of that, or the difference that can make.
Absolutely, we see the results that it brings. So we try and get everyone doing elimination diets. In the beginning, when we're sort of working with plans, we don't go too specific on macros because we find it creates more stress in people, because elimination diets alone are quite stressful to get their head around. And we actually start people off and say, let's do an elimination phase and stop even exercise for a week and just focus on movement. So lots of walks, lots of yoga, and but just focus on getting into the kitchen and cooking and things like that. And every single plate or snack that they have has to be packed with nutrients. So, you know, if they're sort of looking down at a cereal bar with, you know, I sort of say, what does that give you? Tell me what nutrients.
And even if someone doesn't have allergies or intolerances, they're going to feel awesome off that anyway. Eating nutrient-dense food for whatever many days you do it for. Because real food is where it's at, right? And that's what's going to give us the most nutrients. It's going to give us that vitality and energy and what else we get. What? Go on.
Just to, expand on that.
You've gone all softly spoken now.
No, I was going to say, because you said about food first, getting the basics right, because it almost doesn't matter what a person's goal is when they come to us, whether it's a body composition goal or they want to build more muscle, etc. you know, one of the first questions are, what are the best supplements for X, Y, and Z? You know, it's like people want to kind of cut these corners and it's, you know, what powder or pill can I take that's going to help me?
Yeah, for sure.
You know, rather than actually saying, well, actually, you know, can you even cook 3 solid square meals a day? You
Bingo.
know, if not, let's get that right, and then we can, you know, start adding some supplements into the picture.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even like, as Matt said, people cutting corners with that and saying, I'm not going to name any food outlet places, but I went here and got this salad or that salad. Yeah, it's great to do that occasionally, but where possible, I sort of say try and cook and source everything as much as you can yourself, because it's a great habit. And it means it will have more nutrients in it, essentially. So for years as personal trainers, we used to do that, like cut a lot of corners, just go into a supermarket, and it was sort of like bag of that salad and this chicken, not really looking at, you know, whether it was free range or not, and where the salad was from. We didn't really care, did we? Which is all right occasionally.
Yeah.
But most of the time, you should be trying to get
for sure,
locally sourced and stuff as well.
Yeah.
So
I say I'm very similar there on trying to get people to eat that. Focus initially on real food, cooking for themselves, doing it at home, doing it consistently, creating good habits, sleeping better, and then once that's been put in place, okay, there's these things called calories. Here's some numbers. Okay, there's this protein, there's these fats, these carbohydrates, and actually if we manipulate these a little bit further and you track these or you log these or have an understanding of how much you might be getting, we can actually add that next level on. So it's not, I think you probably agree with me in saying that we don't think calories don't matter. All right, calories of course matter, they have their place, but they may not be, for the type of people that we work with, for the majority, may not be our starting points.
no.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we get 2 types of camps where you've got people who say, well, start people on calories because they want to lose weight, it's all about the calories. Which, okay, that's a layer to it, of course it is, but actually if they're not cooking anything at home, if they stop counting calories, it all goes to pot, it all goes to shit, because that's it. All they know is the calorie tracking. So I find what you guys do in terms of educating people, getting them to listen to their body, creating good habits, and then going, okay, here's that next addition and layer of 2 things like that is probably personally as well my approach to getting people.
It's amazing what people focus on though, isn't it? Because it's, you know, like when, and I'm sure you must get this a lot as well, that we always get, we do weekly weight, like check-ins with the guys and girls on our plans, and we always do it on a Friday, because we think, you know, if they get some really good results, they'll probably be less likely to go off the rails at the weekend because they'll be so pleased with the results that they've got.
Okay.
In theory. So we get them to take, like, you know, like waist measurements, stomach measurements, etc. So we're big on obviously the tape measure. We do get them to take their weight as well, just because some people like to have that. But the amount of time someone will do their weekly check-in, they'll lose a good chunk of centimetres off their waist, you know, lower abdominals and their hips and thighs, etc. But I've seen like a marginal change on their weight, and they get really down about it. Oh, I thought, well, I would have lost more weight. It's like, you've lost 3 centimetres off your waist. Like, something right is happening here. You know, like you're losing body fat. You know, please don't focus on the weight.
I wrote about this actually last week. I don't know where I did it, but I kind of said, I had a client who emailed me and said, how are you getting on? I checked them in as well, and she kind of says, not very good, Roo. No great progress here. I've lost 1 pound or 2 this week. I said, that alone is fantastic progress, right? So I think actually it was over the course of 2 or 3 weeks she'd been following the stuff I'd given. And I said, well, how about you take away those measurements and not consider them per se for now, and actually look at the fact that you went from buying processed takeaway food every day to now home cooking. You're now eating protein with every meal. Before you had about less than 20 grams a day, and now you're eating 120 grams a day. Before you never had a vegetable in the diet, and now you're eating vegetables with every meal. Before you were sleeping 6 hours, and now you're sleeping 8 hours, and you're doing all this consistently for the last 3 weeks. That is awesome progress, right? The measurements might have said bugger all, but that doesn't mean you've made fantastic progress. And educating and telling people that, you're like, whoa, that was great, right? And that helps keep people motivated and stuff. So I'm keen on trying to get people off the measurements. Although I track them every single week with everyone, because again, it's a bit like the numbers, right? Numbers of calories, they matter. They can have their place and they're another tool. But some of this stuff as well that people forget about when we do get caught up in the numbers and the details.
I think we're guilty of that as well, though. When you say,
well, I would say that I've always said this on our podcast as well. The people that get the best results are when I was working one-to-one as a personal trainer, were those clients that walked in and sort of went, what should I eat? And I said this, this and this, because it's not processed, it's natural, and the body knows how to use it. And they're like, okay, so give me a bit of an idea. And I'd say, eggs for breakfast and salad and steak, and okay, yeah. And they go away, do it, and they would get the best results. Whereas the people that tried to drill me down to how much, how often, what type, grass-fed, absolutely must 100% be this, that, and get very sort of, I don't want to use the word obsessive, but just want to do everything perfect, almost don't get as good a result, because I think they stress themselves out a little bit too much about it.
Definitely.
And the same thing with measurements, and the same thing with calories and macros, and which is why we do sort of, like you try and say, let's steer away from that for now. Come bring it back in, because we need a checkpoint, we need to help you if it's not working. But the ones that almost just settle into a routine and think this is how I'm going to be for the rest of my life, get the most amazing results.
Definitely.
And sometimes I think we're guilty of overcomplicating as well. Just, the more we learn, the more I'm like, oh, I want to try this, and I want everyone else to try it. So
I think it's easy to get caught up in the details ourselves, because we
definitely
are wanting to learn. And sometimes I almost feel like giving information so simple, particularly at the start, when I say all I want you to do is to increase your protein, drink some more water for me for the next couple of weeks, because I know after reading, talking to you, that's going to benefit you for at least these couple of first months. And they're like, that's all you want me to do? There's no magic supplements, there's no magic pills, you don't want me to get on MyFitnessPal and track absolutely everything? No, I've got some people that I will initially come in, I'll be like, right, bang, track your numbers, we're going to detail that. Some of these guys I've been talking to today, or someone like yourself, right? But that's not always necessary or required. I've just had Lane in, right, who's telling me everyone needs macros, everyone needs to track them, and flexible dieting, and anything else about, restrictiveness and things like that. And that's why I like having different sides of people on. But I think we all agree about 99% of stuff, and it's just that 1% maybe here and there that we maybe have different opinions or starting points for people, or experiences in our own journeys and things like that, which it all comes down to.
Well, I mean, one thing, I love this industry in ways it collaborates and shares ideas and helps each other, but sometimes it makes you scared to pursue something that you believe in. And I've often thought, because we're in the fitness industry, especially women that are coming through the fitness industry to us, I'm almost saying, will you delete MyFitnessPal off your phone, please? Because you are this is too stressful for you. And your grandmother didn't have this, and she didn't have some of the health issues that So I've actually started to switch it back a little bit, and I've had people who've had to diet for competitions and for to hit weight categories, and it's affected their thyroid hormone. And so I've literally said, I'm not even going to give you macronutrient targets. I just want you on really nutritious food and getting to bed earlier and ease off the exercise, and they've got amazing results for that.
Right.
But years ago, I wouldn't have felt confident arguing that as a sort of an approach to anybody. Whereas now, I think sometimes, as much as I love this industry, it's just made some people a little bit too. Well, it's with orthorexic, I suppose, is what we talk about.
It is, right? And I particularly see it in females myself more than the guys. Definitely, they get very caught up in those details and numbers, and it's like, right, we've got to find an alternative route, because this isn't going to manage long term for you. We might be able to do it for 6 weeks, but what happens when you stop looking at those numbers and you don't log on every day? What happens then? We need to maybe create a system for you that you can manage long term to get you the results, but without getting caught up in the numbers and things like that, as much as possible. As much as possible.
100%. I mean, it's like, when people start going into a panic because they've got a holiday coming up, and they're like, I've done so well with my results, but I'm going on holiday, like, what on earth am I going to do? And I write a blog about it, because it's like, everything doesn't need to go out the window just because you're on holiday. Like, you're just in another country that also sell food, similar to what we eat. It is out there, but people just make that association of a holiday with an absolute blowout, and that they're just going to put on a load of weight. And it's a bit like, well, if it stresses you out that much, why don't you just eat better on holiday? Have a little treat, have a few glasses of vino or a bit of ice cream, whatever it may be. But just don't go crazy about it.
How do you feel then? You guys are obviously quite then for focusing on that nutritious food. How do you guys go about helping people or educate them that sometimes we will eat stuff that maybe not on the good food lists. Is that something you guys ever educate or talk about, or is it a complete?
Do you not see Matt on Facebook? Every other week he's got a massive ice cream on Facebook.
Okay,
so
yeah, right. I like my popcorn.
I saw your post actually.
Mine's
Every
peanut.
night.
I'm peanut M&Ms. Peanut M&Ms
Every night cinnamon night.
Yeah.
Exactly. It is funny though, isn't it? 'Cause like,
You're on Skype with your clients eating popcorn.
Yeah. Stop eating the junk.
Yeah.
It's bad for you. It's terrible.
We always laugh that we would get cut out one day doing a webinar and you've got like chocolate in your mouth or something like
I always like envisioned getting like papped, like we on the street with an ice cream and someone just gets
The worst one for me is when I'm doing my Tesco shop or something.
Yeah.
Someone we bump into knows.
Yeah.
The first thing they do is they start nosing
Yeah.
around the
How'd I get in
trolley.
there? Oh,
Yeah.
Must have fell off the shelf. No, we're big on something that I like to focus on is I like the word control.
Okay.
So as long as you're in control, then I don't think there's any problem with having the odd treat. So long as obviously you haven't got a severe intolerance to that food or whatever it may be, because then that's just plain silly,
Yeah.
But for us, it's getting people to remain in control in those situations at a weekend where it just doesn't spiral just into complete carnage. So have a glass of wine, enjoy it, or have a dessert after your meal. Really enjoy it, make sure it's of great quality and make the most of it. It's a treat, that's what it should be. Don't let it then unravel into this weekend of,
It's the weekend.
I've had a treat.
Yeah.
I might as well just start fresh on Monday and have a little bit of a binge because, it's just going to set you back, on so many levels. So it's just getting that focus and getting, I suppose you could say, the inner strength or the mindset to just make sure that's a treat, I'm choosing to have that treat. I'm going to enjoy the hell out of it, and tomorrow's another day, and I'm just going to carry on as I normally do, and that's that. So
We do always say to people, one of the first things we do is educate them about healthy treats in the way that you can pimp a dessert and sort of have some fruit in there and some healthy fats and some double cream isn't some of these foods are actually quite nutritious, don't we? So first of all, we give people healthier versions of desserts and things, and then we talk about alcohol, which has to be covered obviously, and getting moderation with that. And actually we found we had more success on plans when we sort of penciled in what we call pleasure foods.
Okay.
So we say a couple of times a week choose a pleasure food. But ideally something with some nutrition, so dark chocolate would be preferred rather than milk chocolate,
Yeah.
and that's been really successful for us because people have said, I can do this long term if I can have a bit of dark chocolate and a glass of red wine on a Saturday with my steak. This could be really sustainable for me. But when we tried to do full on strict elimination, they would go and have it anyway, so we found that sort of blew up in our face. But then I've seen other people their meal plans, other sort of coaches, where it says 3 cheat meals a week, which personally I think is just giving a client maybe or individuals a bit of a license to go and undo a lot of their sort of hard work, because I don't think I certainly don't feel like I need these pizzas and things like that when I can have healthier versions of. So
because once you learn how, this is why I loved your book, because once you learn how to make great tasting food from good nutritious food, you don't actually crave the pizza.
No.
You don't miss the McDonald's.
Exactly.
You don't ever glance at Greg's and think, I could go with pasty now. Cheese and bacon wrap was my favourite at uni.
Oh, really?
I'm giving out all my secrets tonight. I'm definitely
Popcorn.
tired. It's time to go.
It's all coming out now.
Student days, not anymore. But
it's actually freestone overweight. They're old pictures you see online. It's not really. Just
no. I'm all right. I've done my bit. What was I saying? Yeah, you don't miss it, right?
No,
you don't
no,
miss
not
it.
at all.
So that's what I liked about the book, and why I kind of initially realised I need to show people this.
Yeah.
Because once you start, it's not just a plain piece of chicken, plain piece of broccoli, and that's healthy food.
Well, to be fair, I think that's the reason why most people do go off the rails, because there's not actually any real enjoyment in the food they're eating. And then they get to the weekend, or they're in a situation where it's a friend's birthday or it's a barbecue, and they just go crazy. They just rebel against it because they're eating bland, boring food, and no one wants to do that.
No, not at all.
That's no life to be living. So,
but there's a big education gap, I feel,
Definitely.
for that sort of, for those people who are, you know, your average person who's kind of trying to improve their nutrition for their whether it's body composition or just generally health. There's that gap. It's probably, I would blame a lot of like the gimmicks and fad diets that a lot of magazines and TV adverts, they never try and fill that gap, and it's actually people like yourselves and myself that are actually coming in with these recipes and cookbooks and educating people that actually it's about getting at home and cooking your good food and things like that.
I remember being like massively relieved as a woman, because if you're reading magazines and things and you think that, okay, so it's a low-fat cereal with very little taste, skim milk for breakfast, you would snack on like basically crackers that taste of nothing, and then my dinner was always salad when I was trying to be healthy. And so I would go off the rails at the weekend and eat bags and bags of like minstrels and other things, because I think I was just craving something. I was like, I've punished myself all week, so I've earned this, and then I'd start again on Monday. And so when I found out that actually you could eat things like, you know, roast chicken and sweet potato chips, and that's healthy, and I could have that on a Monday, not just a Saturday, then I found it so liberating and so amazing. And I just say to everyone, the more you improve your knowledge of nutrition, the healthier you'll be and the more effortless it becomes.
Yeah, it's all about education, isn't it?
Definitely.
Education, as opposed to just telling people what to do. Go and eat this. Do as I say. For me, people who are working with myself, is an education process.
Yeah.
And I like to start from the basics and work my way up with it, so that you've covered them cornerstones, the foundation. Because without that foundation, everything else can fall down. It's just like a building.
Do
you know what I mean?
Honestly, I actually started a blog the other day talking about this, didn't I? Like getting the basics right, laying a solid foundation, then building on it. And I think as well, the beauty is you're never too old. It's never too late to make these changes. Like, you know, like my mum is 60 now, you know, coming up to 61, and she was told by the doctor to lose a chunk of weight a couple of years ago, and she was considering like a slim fast, because she used slim fast back in the day and got really good results with it. And I was like, Mum, this is crazy. Like, your son has written a book, you know, based on this type of thing. I said, please just read it and just cook breakfast, lunch and dinner from this book and see how you get on. And she lost 2 stone in 2 months, didn't she?
Yeah, I bet.
And my mum, in the space of 2 months, not only lost a load of weight, felt fantastic, went back to the doctor's, blood pressure was down, you know, the doctor was like, this is amazing. But then on top of that, my mum now makes all of her lunches for work, takes snacks with her, whereas before it was just like sandwiches and baguettes in the canteen, chocolate out of the machine, cracked coffee with sugar in, you know, and now it's like, wow, my mum is like preparing her own breakfast, her lunches, and that's an amazing feeling. Yeah, she's 60 years old. You know, so.
Does your mum listen to you? Mine doesn't listen to me.
Your dad does.
Do you know what? My mum loves cooking, so actually they ate a lot of the food that's in the book anyway. That's how they eat. They're big on home cooking and things like that. My mum is still very much in that mindset of calorie restriction when it comes to dieting. So she eats like a sparrow, and I don't think she eats enough, and she skips breakfast, and then she'll have like dark chocolate, you know, like later on she'll start having a chocolate or whatever. But my dad is a bit more
her dad's probably more primal than I am.
Yeah, he's very he's very open-minded, got really into it, and when we just recently went to stay with them, he had the slow cooker on 24/7 with bones in, so he loves bone broth and drinks that. And he'd actually put in it heart and tongue, because he'd gone and brought a whole goat from a farmer. So this is like another
goat? Dead goat?
Whole goat, and it was all in the freezer, and he said, I've put the tongue and the heart in the slow cooker. And this was amazing, because it was another level for even me. Got the tongue out, and the tongue looked like a tongue. It was massive, wasn't it? Actually, that was a cow's tongue.
Big
got a cow's tongue.
Grippy tongue.
And you have to peel the skin off the tongue before you eat it. And even I was like, okay, I'm fully into this, but this is like, even I'm struggling. And then you slice the tongue, and it tasted like slow cooked lamb. Like it was amazing. So that was my dad getting me, and then the heart was the same, and he puts like ginger and garlic and oregano and thyme in the broth, so it doesn't taste like stew essentially. So.
But your dad reads everything, doesn't he? Like if you're like, read this book, he will read it front to back, and then he'll be like, oh, did you know? And then, whereas I suppose like going back to what you said earlier about some clients respond really well to giving them like, these are the macros I want you to hear, these are your calories, these are your numbers, because that's how they work.
They love it.
Whereas some people just need, give me the bottom line basics, but your dad is very much like, give me the science, give me the information, and I'll read it for myself.
Well, what he started doing is, I mean, I think that generation probably need more help. Like my dad's 60, and so they were into low fat, and they were told to, you know, sort of watch cholesterol. And he lost a few friends to heart attacks, so got quite interested at that point. I was like, Dad, you need to read up on this about inflammation, and actually saturated fat isn't the culprit.
Devil.
So then he gets on the phone, he reads all the book and gets on the phone to everybody and says, you need to be eating butter. You know, like he's a real sort of...
I think it's like, I've only got a few friends left.
He did ring up. He rang a few friends and said, look, I've been waiting to say this to you for a while, I've not known how, but you're fat and you need to sort it out, and you need to stop having fruit juice. And
Eat your butter.
And it's worked. He's had a few friends who've then moved on to basically gone and got personal trainers and doing kettlebells, and have moved on to eating higher fat, low sugar diets.
They just needed a bit of blunt honesty.
Yeah. I wouldn't recommend most people do that with friends and family.
Going back to what you just said, you might not remember, you said you're primal. Or you're eating quite primal. Does that mean paleo type based?
Well, the funny thing was,
I want to just quiz you a little bit about your diet.
I was actually going to say paleo, but then I changed it to primal at the last second, because we've always said we don't want to place ourselves in the paleo bracket, because you could probably Google what is paleo and get 20 different definitions and hence the reason why the word paleo does not feature in the title of our book. From a marketing perspective, maybe that was a bad decision, because, you know, paleo is like the most Googled word, the most Googled diet
nutrition word,
last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And everyone was like, get paleo in the cookbook. We're like, yeah, but we're not paleo, you know. And the amount of times we put up a recipe and someone's like, yeah, but that's not paleo, and I'm like, well, I didn't say it was.
Yeah.
You know, so
you can very easily get branded into a certain dietary nutrition type group. Very easy. People quite enjoy putting you into groups and types.
And then criticise you when you step outside that.
Step outside that.
like white potatoes, what?
Yeah.
Cheese, really?
Yeah, you're not allowed to step out that. You personally then, I've always been interested in building muscle, strength. I guess you are too. You look like you've lifted a weight maybe once or twice.
Well, you know, here and there.
Here and there. How have you found that type of diet then from yourself for body composition and building muscle and the strength and stuff that you're obviously interested in as well?
Well, for me, I mean, I suppose like a big question I get is in fact that, because a lot of guys are like, oh, can you bulk up on this kind of diet? I'm like, hell yeah, of course you can.
You should see how much he eats.
I mean, I've always loved food. I mean, you know, we spoke about like leptin resistance yesterday in our presentation.
You are definitely leptin resistant.
A lot of people's bodies don't tell them anymore when they're
hungry,
and that's me. Like, I just keep eating, and Keris is like, how are you still eating? I'm still hungry, I'm still going. So I've had to really struggle with that. But for me, the second I cleaned my act up with my nutrition, cut out most processed foods and initially dairy, etc., my training only improved, my recovery only improved, so I could train harder, I could train more often.
You're a lot leaner. Like, I actually think he is so much leaner when you play around with, you go from like high fat and then carbs in the evening, and but you're definitely leaner when you are a bit more on
stricter.
it.
Do you eat carbohydrates in terms of starch?
Yes.
Rice,
so
potatoes?
I'll have
more potatoes, don't
more
you?
potatoes. I do
Why?
eat rice. Sorry?
Why?
Porridge? What's that?
Why potatoes over rice? Personal preference?
Why potatoes over rice?
Yeah.
Because rice I can just eat kilos of.
Yeah, it is easy, isn't it? Yeah. You don't even need to chew it.
No, exactly. Or I just inhale it. Potatoes, I just enjoy.
Just be honest why you eat more potatoes than rice. Because you can't cook rice for toffee. Every time you try, it comes out like
sludge.
It does.
I don't know what it is.
You've had some stick today,
but I've had, when I do attempt rice, it does come out quite sludgy.
To be honest, I think if we're honest, because we do think,
I feel like we're digressing here.
No, what I was about to say was, we do believe in carbs. We believe in carbs. I've taken my carbs up recently and more frequently. You're a bit more like sporadic. You'll have them and then drop them out for a few days. But what I would say is the reason we favour potatoes is it's so much easier to cook and and have cold and stuff like that. Really, but they're just both glucose.
Me, some steamed potatoes topped with a little bit of Himalayan pink salt and some butter melted over the top is just amazing.
Yeah.
I could almost have that with every dinner, but typically for me, and this took me a while to realise this because I was a carb junkie before I kind of turned to this. I mean, I'd eat protein as well, but I would eat so many carbs through bread, pasta and rice. And then I kind of, even when I initially went to a more, dare I say, paleo way of eating, I did typically fall into that kind of low carb, high protein bracket that a lot of people I think do when they turn to this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I soon realised that didn't really fuel the type
I can
of training
imagine. That's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, definitely.
So for me, typically now, I respond well to high protein, high fat breakfast. I just find that as a start to the day works really well for me.
Same.
I'll sometimes have some carbs with my lunch, just depending on kind of the nature of my training at the time. But again, I may typically go for a high protein, high fat. And then there's always vegetables or salads present as well with all my meals. But I always have carbs with my dinner, always. Whether I'm doing lower carb or high carb, there's carbs at dinner time every time.
I think you have, I see this mostly with clients, and you have this experience where Matt could do like high fat and probably look leaner, but then your training suffers and you don't feel happy with that, do you? So then you bring carbs back in and maybe don't have like the 12 pack that you want, but you love your training and you feel really good about it. So it's a bit of a...
Aesthetics are important, don't get me wrong, but I have no dream of ever being super, super ripped.
She's got a 3-pack though.
I've got a nice solid 3-pack. 3.5 maybe on a good day. And I'm really happy with that because for me, I'm a performance guy. If I'm not performing well in the gym or back in the day like playing rugby, that would really, really affect me like mood-wise. And so I just don't really like making that sacrifice. And even the other week, didn't I said I was going to just cut carbs out for a bit, but my training at the moment is quite glycogen depleting, and my training just started to dip.
Yeah.
And after having a really good spell of some solid training, some solid progress, I didn't like it. I was like, no, I'm not having it. Carbs back in.
Yeah. But the only reason he'll cook carbs normally is if it's for your gut, probably, isn't it? When you have like a phase of like when we were travelling, like we were eating some foods that we shouldn't have eaten properly, and so
I was a little bit naughty on the drive back from Portugal. It was like, do I either eat this baguette or fall asleep at the wheel?
He was driving for 12 hours, so
I was doing 10 hours a day, wasn't I, for 2 days.
We were in the car 12 hours.
And the first day I was okay because we had a little bit of our own food that we prepared, but then on the second day I got about 6 hours in and I was like, I need something. And if anything, the reason I got the baguette, giving out all my secrets now, I mean, to be honest with you, it tasted amazing. I hadn't had a bit for ages. It's like I always needed something that was going to take me some time to eat because it gave me something to do because I was just staring at a road for like hours on end, and I was like really taking my time with this baguette. I think I made it last about 40 minutes, didn't I?
I valued my life, so I let you have it.
I did not fall asleep.
Did you suffer after it though?
To be honest with you, at first I said to you, I was like, oh God, I thought I'd actually get quite bloated and stuff from this, and I've actually been alright. And the next day I woke up and, oh Jesus.
That's enough.
That's enough, yeah.
Get the point.
And I was like, well, I won't do that again.
Yeah.
Do you think, last question, we'll go, we've been talking a long time now. Last question, do you think removing foods, this is something I've been interested in, if someone doesn't have an intolerance or a sensitivity is a good idea? I know I said they're going to be replacing that with good stuff and good foods. But what I've felt personally is, although I've removed stuff, like you said, when you put that baguette in and stuff, you maybe feel the consequences harder.
Yeah.
Do you feel that's a good idea for people who maybe don't have any intolerances or sensitivities to actually take stuff up their diet and then test that sort of thing? Because if they don't have anything wrong with them per se, and those symptoms come back harder, this is just from personal experience and from what I've had clients say to me, if they go super healthy on their food choices, avoid everything completely for weeks, and then they go and eat a pizza, and then they wake up and say, Roo, I've had a hangover for a couple of days, and I never used to get that. Now, I've kind of thought, well, is that how you used to feel? And you used to feel like that all the time, and you just never knew, because now you've got good health, now you're feeling better, you're energized, so that old food is bringing you down a peg.
Yeah.
What do you think? What's your thoughts on that?
Do you know what? That's a really tricky question.
I
think it's because I used to be exactly like you, and I would say to a lot of people, I think it's a good thing that you're now seeing what that food was maybe doing to you, and actually being healthier and feeling more, energized is a good thing, and it puts you off doing it again, so they don't eat those foods as much, so there's positives. But I'm seeing a lot of people say, should we be exposed to those foods occasionally, and hornitis, is that a good thing?
It's something I'm interested in talking to people about, learning more about myself as well.
I also wonder if, I'm hearing a lot of people say when they go 100% clean for 3-4 months, their results almost stall and they don't feel as good as when they were a bit more, sort of less strict and a bit freer with themselves. And I think that could also be something to do with the fact you can maybe live a little bit more and not impose so many restrictions on yourself. So I think we've had like a phase where we did something called an MRT, which is an MRT test. I don't know if you've heard of those. So you run a blood test that looks at foods that you're reacting to, the immune system reacts to, and then you follow the strictest, and I mean the strictest elimination diet.
That was tough.
So for 1 week, all I could eat was salmon and spinach.
Nice.
And Matt could only eat chicken and broccoli.
And I literally developed a gag reflex to chicken. And I love chicken. And I was just like, this is horrible.
And we ran that for 3 months. And although we probably, in a way, experienced some health benefits, I think in a way it was very stressful, very restrictive, a bit miserable. And so we now hit this nice middle ground where we, don't get me wrong, if I have something like an autoimmune condition that I noticed that gluten flared it, then I would just not touch gluten. But I do think there might be some middle ground for some people that means that they just thrive a little bit more in that.
Yeah, I think we're quite big on, maybe this is more so me than you, but we're still big on we do like to do like a 30-day elimination with people, just because intolerance or not, I think people just always will come out feeling awesome anyway through removing stimulants and excessive processed foods, etc. Regardless of an intolerance or not. But I definitely see what you're saying. Because, and I think there's room for it for sure, 100%.
I think the one thing, I'm sure you agree with this, is one thing I never say now is no, absolutely, that can never be the case, never. Because I backtrack on things over the years. I learn more and I see more and I backtrack, and I think you've got to be able to admit that you do that, else. Because everything's changing, the science is changing, and
we're learning more. And if we weren't learning more, and actually Lane talked about this as well when I talked to him an hour ago. He was like, I've got articles that I wrote years ago and I wouldn't publish them or I wouldn't push them now because I don't quite agree with what I wrote.
We've said that.
And he says, like, if you can't do that, then you're not you're not being a real coach. You're not being real with yourself, 100%. And you're not being true to your clients, because you're trying to defend something that maybe actually is outdated, or the research has suggested otherwise, or you've learnt and experienced something different. So that's why I love these podcasts, connecting with people like yourself and just learning. My ears have been open for the last hour.
We could probably do a podcast again in a year's time, and it'll probably be
we'll all be talking about.
You'll be like, I love macros. My fitness pal rolls.
Always start breakfast with toast. That's the first thing. Never miss me toast.
I think even we get caught up in these little things that come through. And you know what? If it's working for people and we're getting results and we're learning, it's all part of it, isn't it? And
it's like a guy said to me earlier. We were talking about macros, funny enough, and he was like, "I've tried protein and fat for breakfast, and I just don't feel it satiates me or doesn't give me as much energy as when I have my oats with a bit of fruit and milk in the morning." And I'm like, "Well, carry on eating oats with fruit in the morning." And he was like, "Yeah, but I've read that it's bad." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you feel good on it, right? You don't get bloated from it." He's like, "No, I feel really great and I train really well." So there you go. Who am I to tell you not to have it, because it's working for you?
For sure, right?
You can divide the population on breakfast, because you just see so many different, opinions and takes on it and things. I really think, and I've stopped being so prescriptive because of what Matt's saying.
I think you have to be less prescriptive, don't you? Try and get, like, I did that talk today on the 10 cornerstones to health and performance. My first one, my number one cornerstone is listen to your body, because nobody knows your body better than yourself. And that's what it does. And no matter how much podcasts and coaches and all that you get and tell you what to do, you've still got to think, is this right for me? And that's what it all comes down to. And as coaches, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to actually get those people to listen to their bodies and stand on their own 2 feet, I think.
a bit of independence.
Yeah, of course. You don't want to
And
rely.
I think protect them from rubbish marketing and money-making schemes as well. That's another thing we try and wade in.
What works for Jennifer Aniston might not work for you. Let's face it.
Right, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Great
to finally catch up with you.
We've had this like online relationship, if you like. Through Facebook and seeing what each other's about. So it's good to finally put a face, like a real face to a person, and he's not really freestyle overweight, he's in awesome shape.
Yes.
Just to clarify.
It's alright, I've got the pictures. We got the pictures at the
That's
start.
That's what you do.
But I didn't get an arm squeeze. You got the arm squeeze in. So next time my top's coming off. Right, guys.
Well, thank you.
Last thing. Where can people get hold of you? Want to learn more? Get your stuff?
Okay, so we are on Facebook, we're on Twitter, the usual Fitter Food, we're on both of those under Fitter Food, aren't we?
Yeah.
I think on Twitter at the moment it's Fitter_food, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Our website is, at the moment it's fitterlondon.co.uk, but there's a new fitterfood.com website coming soon, so be sure to check us out on there. Check out our book, full of over 100 awesome recipes, super nutritious, really easy to make, and of course they taste amazing, and there's desserts in there as well, all natural ingredients, and that's on our website too. And any questions, hit us up on Facebook, we're on there a lot. So we will reply.
You've done that pitch before, haven't you?
Yeah, that's good. I always leave that to him.
I was going to say, you're done. You look like you're done, because it's his job, right? No, I can't recommend that book enough. So
thank you.
I genuinely
it really
mean that.
does.
So nice of you.
Pleasure, guys. Thank you.